today to do my final installment for my spoiler reviews for the Harry Potter series. Believe it or not, I finally got through the slog, got through to Deathly Hallows. I say slog, I enjoy it, it's just a lot of reading. As I mentioned, this is the final installment of the series. It is book 7 of 7, and I gotta be honest, it's a decent ending. It wraps up the series pretty good, and while parts of this book really left me wanting more in terms of action, in terms of character development, in terms of a more impactful feeling to the hero's sacrifice, but overall, it was still a fun read. I still enjoyed myself. I still largely enjoyed myself. And with that, I'll just jump into the likes and dislikes. My first like is Kreacher's arc. I do really enjoy the way that Harry gets to know Kreacher better. A lot of it is at Hermione's insistence. However, I do enjoy the way that relationship kind of develops and the way Harry kind of has to overcome these negative aspects to people he had idolized previously, just with Sirius and his treatment and Sirius's hate of his family kind of interfering with these basic rights and basic interactions with another creature. My second positive is Ron using the book from Fred and George to show interest in girls. I wouldn't have thought it would have been that hard, and based on what he said and the meme my husband made for me for this, you can tell that being not a prick didn't really seem to occur to him, which seems weird, but he's a teenage boy. I guess I should give him some leeway. I don't know. I just thought it was hilarious that he had this book and it was basically... And then my third like is actually the scene at the Lovegood's home. There's something about it that I always found very touching. Part of it was when they go up to Luna's room and you see the painting she's made of her friends, and just the heartbreaking moment where you see how impactful it is to her that she has friends, because while she never seems to give off an air of hurt or caring that not a lot of people enjoy being around her regularly, it meant so much to be able to see that she is hiding some things, and that having these friends and having these people who like her company and seek her out means so much. And to me, that's also kind of emphasized with Xenophilus's love for Luna. After his wife died, Luna was all he had, and his love and his concern for her just really comes through in that scene as well. Both in how he talks to her and then ultimately what he's doing to get her back, because it's heartbreaking, and it's just such an impactful and powerful show of love that that scene and those two things in it specifically always just get to me, and I love reading that part. And that's what I have for likes. I'll go into my dislikes. The first dislike is the length and pacing. As I mentioned in my previous video, in the front half there's a lot of inaction with them in the forest with this single Horcrux and not really progressing any, and it ends up dragging quite a bit and makes it really difficult to get into the story. I don't know how I got through it the first time I read this book, because man, it is a slog to go through some of that stuff in the woods. My second negative is Voldemort's anger and how they're using it to kind of gauge where Voldemort is and how far into his plan he is. And the only reason I really have a problem with it is because it's known that Voldemort has used it previously to exploit Harry. And Hermione does kind of warn Harry about this, but the fact that despite her warnings, they end up relying on it quite a bit. And while it does make sense closer to the end, once he realizes that they've taken the Horcruxes and he's becoming considerably more unraveled, it makes a lot more sense for me there. But to have it earlier in the book like they do, there's just something about it that doesn't agree with me all the way through the book. And then my third and final and probably biggest negative is the scene where Ron accuses Harry of not understanding why he listens to the radio. And the reason I don't like this scene is because of how Ron's acting. I know that the Horcrux is amplifying it, but the fact that he's even saying it or thinking it at all really aggravates me, because why doesn't Ron realize that he is Harry's family? His family is Harry's family. Like, yes, his parents are dead, as he both cruelly and maliciously points out, but because his parents are dead, Harry has this enormous family of these people he loves and cares for, including Ron and his family, and he is just as broken up and just as terrified of hearing these names. And it breaks my heart every time I read this scene, and it just hammers home to me why I don't care for Ron as a character. This scene with Ron just tears me up every time I read it, and it just makes me super angry. So I'm gonna stop talking about it before I get way too ranty about it. So I'll move on to characters. I was sad that the development of some of them ended a little bit earlier than I would have liked, but it's how it goes, especially in a series this long with such as large a cast as it has. And that being said, I can't really complain about how each character was dealt with, because overall I really enjoy where the characters ended up, how their arcs finished, the things that they accomplished and helped with, and overall this final book dealt with the characters very, very well. And that's all I really have to say. Some minor disappointments with the characters, but overall pretty good. And with that, I'll move into the wrap-up. This book is kind of between 3.5 and 4 stars for me. I did list it as 4 stars on Goodreads. If you had asked me when this book first came out, I would have told you it was a 5-star book. However, rereading it, I realized that it is not a 5-star book. There are a number of things that make me really angry and upset me while I'm reading it. However, there are still a lot of things I really like. But the biggest issue for me for enjoyment was just the pacing, and because so much of the front half was waiting for something to happen. The characters overall are really solid. Their story arcs ended pretty well. The relationships really, the relationships themselves solidified, and I'm a little upset at how the epilogue went, because it didn't cover all the characters I wanted to see, for lack of a better term, but it wasn't that bad of a final installment for a series. There have been much worse, and some things left me wanting more, but a lot of things were pretty okay, and I'm really not that upset with what it did. With that, I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!